I said we don't serve people like that, the bakery manager barked, pointing a trembling finger at the man near the door. Amanda froze mid-step, still holding the sandwich she had just ordered. The room fell quiet. Every head turned toward her and the man in tattered clothes standing behind her. Gray beard, sun-wrinkled face, eyes full of gratitude. He didn't ask for anything, she said calmly. I bought it. It's mine, and I'm giving it to him. The cashier glanced awkwardly at the manager, unsure whether to smile or apologize. But the manager wasn't done. His voice rose over the murmur of other customers. This is a place of business. If you want to play charity, do it somewhere else. Amanda clenched her jaw, but didn't raise her voice. She turned to the man, whom she'd come to know only as Tom, and gently placed the sandwich in his weathered hands. Eat slow today. The meat's warm. Tom's eyes welled up. He nodded once, not speaking, not wanting to make it worse. God bless you, Amanda, he whispered. You always see me. She smiled, then turned to leave. But the moment she stepped toward the door, the manager scoffed loud enough for everyone to hear. Probably doing it for attention. These people always want to feel like saviors. Amanda stopped. She could have said something cruel. She could have listed her degrees, her income, her wedding date next week, but she didn't. She looked back and said simply, if seeing a man as human makes me a savior, you should pray you meet one someday. That was 2 days before her wedding. Later that afternoon, while running final errands, Amanda entered a luxury bridal boutique to pick up her veil. The front desk girl glanced up once, then did a double take. Can I help? You? She asked, her voice clipped, eyes scanning Amanda's simple clothes. Yes, Amanda Reeves. I'm here to collect the custom veil I ordered last month. The woman's brows lifted. Do you have paperwork or something? Amanda reached calmly into her purse and handed over the receipt. The woman scanned it. Then, her eyes shot back to Amanda. She didn't smile, didn't apologize. Instead, she called to the back. Taylor, can you double-check if someone named Reeves has a pickup today? As Amanda waited, she heard 2 staff members whispering behind a partition. You think it's for real? One said. Probably another case of mistaken identity. The other laughed. Taylor returned a moment later, holding a delicate white veil, beautifully embroidered. But as Amanda reached for it, the front desk girl leaned in. Just so you know, these custom pieces aren't usually refundable, in case anything gets returned. I don't plan on returning anything, Amanda said, and I paid in full, with my card. The woman hesitated, then handed over the veil. No thank you, no smile, no dignity, just silence. Like Amanda had wasted their time. As Amanda turned to leave, she heard it, a faint mutter under someone's breath, but it was clear. She probably stole the money from someone's wallet. Amanda stood outside, blinking fast against the burn behind her eyes, not because she was surprised, but because even in her best moment, 5 days from marrying the love of her life, the world still saw her through a lens she never asked. For not bride, not woman, not human, just skin, just assumptions. Her phone buzzed. It was her fiancé, Justin, a sweet voice message. Can't wait to see you walk down that aisle, babe. We're almost there. You deserve the world. She breathed in deep, straightened her back, smiled at herself in the boutique's glass. Almost there, she whispered. Let them think what they want. But what they didn't know, what no one knew, was that Amanda had spent the last 3 years stopping by the same street corner every Thursday and Saturday to give a meal, sometimes just a coffee, to a homeless man she'd never truly known, and he never asked for more. He never begged. He just looked up, smiled, and said, You're the only one who doesn't walk past like I'm a ghost. The day before the wedding, Amanda was outside the church helping the planner go over the seating chart when a security guard approached. Hey, just so you're aware, there's a homeless guy pacing across the street. Looks like he's watching the building. Amanda turned to see Tom, standing far off, leaning on his cane. He didn't move, didn't speak, just stood, like he didn't want to disturb her moment. He's fine, Amanda said softly. He's a friend. The guard raised an eyebrow. Friend, huh? Well, just let us know if he gets weird. We don't want your big day messed up by background noise. Amanda didn't reply, but her hand clenched tight around her clipboard. She had learned to swallow insults so often, they no longer hurt. But on her wedding day, they scratched deeper. That night, as rehearsal dinner wrapped, Amanda stepped outside alone to catch a breath. A car passed, and then a voice from the shadows. I never thought I'd get to see you in white, Miss Amanda. She turned. It was Tom. He was cleaner than usual, wearing an old blazer, hands trembling slightly. You came all this way to say that? She smiled. No, ma'am, he said, voice rough. I came to say tomorrow you won't walk alone. She furrowed her brow. What do you mean? But Tom just smiled, nodded, and walked off into the night. That was the hook. That was the beginning. And nothing could have prepared anyone for what was coming the next day. because when Amanda walked down that aisle, it wasn't just guests who stood to greet her. It was 12 Marines, in full uniform, lined across both sides of the church like an honor guard, and in the front row, an empty seat, with a folded American flag placed across it. Amanda didn't cry during the ceremony, not when she saw her mother dab her eyes in the front pew, not when Justin whispered, "You're the most beautiful woman I've ever seen," not even when the pastor said, "You may now kiss the bride." But when they walked down the aisle, hand in hand and past those 12 silent Marines, each one nodding respectfully, boots lined in reverence, that's when something cracked in her chest, because they knew. They weren't there for tradition. They were there for something deeper, something earned. She'd spent most of her life fighting to be seen for who she was, not just what they thought she was. Amanda grew up in a small town where her father worked 2 jobs just to keep the lights on. Her mother cleaned houses. One of them belonged to Amanda's future high school principal. She remembered overhearing that principal once say, "People like her, smart or not, they peak in high school." Amanda didn't say anything back then. She just worked harder. She studied through tears. She took buses across town for better classes. She gave up parties, skipped prom, and still graduated top 5 in her class. And even then, the local paper featured the white valedictorian on the front page. Her name was in the corner, misspelled. Still, she smiled. Still, she fought, because Amanda's parents didn't raise a bitter girl. They raised a builder, a giver, a woman who believed that dignity was not earned by praise, but by principle. So when she got into law school, she didn't celebrate with champagne. She walked outside and gave the janitor's son a copy of her acceptance letter. "Proof," she told him, "that we're never where we start." Every Thursday and Saturday during those years, she passed the same man outside the subway. That was Tom. He never asked for much. Sometimes, not even food. He'd just sit on the curb and say, "How's the world treating you today, counselor?" And Amanda would reply, a little more honest than yesterday. There were nights she skipped lunch just to afford 2 sandwiches, one for herself, one for him. But it wasn't about charity, it was about decency. It was about saying, "You matter," without needing applause for it. Still, it hurt sometimes. Not because she expected a trophy, but because even when she was at her best, the world still squinted at her like a blur they didn't trust. She got followed in stores. She got second-guessed in meetings. She got smiles that said, "You're impressive," voices that whispered, "You're lucky." And yet, she didn't stop believing that kindness, when quiet, is still power. That respect isn't something you demand. It's something you carry, even when the world tries to strip it from your back. So standing in that aisle, arm in arm with her husband, surrounded by the sound of applause and joy and love, she saw more than a wedding. She saw proof that giving, even when unseen, even when unreturned, is never wasted. What they didn't know was that Tom, man everyone pitied, ignored, whispered about, was once a Marine Corps medic, decorated, honorable, forgotten by the system. Praised him once and left him behind later. And those men in uniform today, they were his brothers. They found her name through a veterans group. They arranged this without her knowing because word had spread. She fed one of our own, one of them had said. For years, with no camera, no claps, just heart. Amanda didn't cry during the vows. She cried when one of those Marines saluted her and said, "Ma'am, you didn't just marry a good man today. You reminded 12 of us what honor really looks like." "You're holding up the line, sir. Please move along." The woman at the dress shop counter didn't even look up as she waved Marcus aside. Her eyes skimmed the next guest, a blonde woman holding a designer purse. Marcus blinked. "I'm just trying to pick up the order. My fiancée left her name. Jacqueline." "Sir, we don't allow people to loiter in here." The manager interrupted from across the store, arms crossed, her voice slicing the room like broken glass. "You can't just walk in and touch things that aren't yours." A silence rippled through the boutique, the same kind of silence that wasn't loud. It was worse than that. It was loaded, the kind that presses down on your chest like a stone. A couple of women shifted uncomfortably. A young assistant behind the glass display glanced at Marcus, then away. No one said a word. Marcus stood still, hands relaxed at his sides, posture military straight. His calm wasn't weakness. It was control, the kind you learn when you're used to being wrongly accused. "I have the claim slip," he said slowly, carefully, pulling it from his wallet like it was a live wire. "It has her name, Jacqueline Miller. Order Duggar 3891. The assistant glanced at it but didn't move. The manager stepped forward, heels clicking sharply. She snatched the paper, glanced at it, then back at him. "This could be fake," she said, louder now, for everyone to hear. "We've had theft here before. I'm calling security." Marcus felt something break in his chest, not from shock but from familiarity. He had lived this exact scene before. Too many times. Different building, same judgment. Two security guards entered a moment later. One already had his radio in hand. The other placed himself between Marcus and the door like a wall. Is there a problem? Sir, here is causing a disturbance and can't provide proper identification for the pickup, the manager said quickly. Marcus didn't raise his voice. He didn't flinch. He pulled out his phone, opened the text from Jacqueline and showed the pickup code, a digital receipt with the boutique's name. You can't just walk in here expecting us to believe you, the manager snapped, ignoring the screen. Marcus looked at her, really looked, not with anger, with the kind of exhaustion you carry when you've fought the same war your entire life. I don't need your belief, he said, steady as stone. I earned this. A beat passed, then a loud scoff from the manager. People like you always think you're owed something, she spat, and we're tired of it. A gasp came from someone near the dressing rooms. The room had split, some horrified, others pretending to be absorbed in handbags. Marcus clenched his jaw, not in fury, in restraint. He had promised Jacqueline he'd behave, that today wouldn't be another story where he got humiliated, but they were making it hard. You're embarrassing yourself, one of the guards muttered to him. Just step outside, man. Don't make this bigger. Marcus didn't move, because backing down, that would be the real embarrassment. I want to speak to the owner, he said, locking eyes with the manager. Now, the woman laughed, a bitter, cruel sound. You want to speak to Miss Kendall, the owner of this boutique? She walked back to the desk and picked up the phone. You can explain yourself to her while she files a police report. She pressed dial. Marcus didn't stop her. He simply stood there, the tension pressing in from every direction, the weight of decades of disrespect collapsing into this one moment. He had lived too long, worked too hard, sacrificed too much, to be treated like he didn't belong. As the call rang, a few customers quietly left. One whispered something to another. The staff pretended not to hear. Marcus checked his watch. 10 minutes passed when he was supposed to be home. Jacqueline was waiting. The wedding was tomorrow, and this was the reminder. Even dressed well, even with money in the account, even with a name and a receipt, they didn't see him. They never saw him, just the color. The phone clicked and the manager straightened as someone picked up on the other end. Yes, hello. I have a situation here, she said, turning slightly to face the corner, but still speaking loudly enough for everyone to hear. Yes, a man claiming to pick up an order. Jacqueline Miller, number 3891. He says he has authorization, but it doesn't look right. Marcus kept his eyes on the floor for a moment, jaw locked, fingers interlocked, at his waist like he was back at attention. He didn't trust his own voice right now, not because he was unsure, because the rage was so loud inside he was afraid it might explode. She wants to speak with you, the manager finally said, thrusting the phone toward him like it was poison. Her lip curled like she'd just done the world a favor. He took the phone without a word, pressed it to his ear. Marcus? Jacqueline's voice snapped him back to breath. What the hell is going on? He exhaled slowly. They wouldn't let me pick up the dress. There was a long pause. Put her back on the phone, Jacqueline said, her voice now like ice. Now, he handed it back. The manager took it smugly, her smile still playing under the surface, but it faded with each second of silence on the line. Her eyebrows lifted, then dropped, then her lips parted. She turned away, then turned back again, color draining from her face. Yes, ma'am. I didn't realize. I didn't know. I'm so sorry. She held the phone out like it burned. She wants to speak with you again. Marcus took the phone slowly. Jacqueline's voice was sharper this time, trembling with anger. I'm coming down there. Don't leave, you hear me? He nodded, though she couldn't see him. I hear you. He hung up. The manager tried to speak. Sir, but he lifted his hand. Not a threat, just finality. You've said enough. The boutique had fallen quiet again, a new kind of quiet. Like everyone was realizing they had made a mistake but were too proud to admit it. One of the security guards had stepped back now. The other shifted uncomfortably. I didn't know we don't usually deal with this kind of, the manager began, floundering. You don't usually deal with men who look like me, Marcus replied, voice calm but laced with something sharper than fury. Truth. She didn't deny it. She just looked away. And then the front door opened. Not slowly, not politely. It burst open like a wave. Jacqueline walked in, still in her heels, hair up, eyes blazing like a wildfire. Behind her were 3 people, 2 women, 1 man, all in coordinated suits. Her legal team. She didn't pause. She didn't ask. She walked straight to the counter, looked the manager dead in the eyes. You embarrassed my fiancé. You called security on him. You accused him of theft. Do you know what you just did to your business? The manager looked like she might collapse. Jacqueline didn't wait for an answer. She turned to Marcus, her expression softening for just a moment. Come on, we're leaving. You don't need their dress, you need your dignity. And that was the thing. That moment, the quiet power, the grace, the pride, it wasn't revenge, it was reclamation. The security guard stepped aside without a word. Marcus held Jacqueline's hand as they walked past the register, past the stunned silence, past the glass doors that had closed behind so many people who judged him without knowing who he was. But now they knew. They knew they'd tried to humiliate a man who had already earned every ounce of respect they refused to give him. The manager had just begun to stammer out some excuse when the boutique's double doors opened. Again. But this time the people who entered didn't look like shoppers. They looked like a board meeting walking on marble. 5 individuals. Sharp suits, briefcases, composed expressions. The woman in the front was tall with silver hair and skin like coffee. She didn't smile. She didn't blink. She scanned the room, and the temperature seemed to drop. "Is that him?" she asked, motioning toward Marcus. Jacqueline nodded, stepping beside her. "Yes, that's him. Marcus Kane, my fiancé, and the man who owns 40% of this brand's parent company." The room didn't gasp. It froze. The manager blinked like she'd misheard. I'm sorry, what?" Jacqueline's voice turned quiet. Too quiet. "You thought he was here to steal. He was here to inspect." The silver-haired woman stepped forward now, pulling a leather folder from her bag and flipping it open. The manager leaned over to look, her mouth parted, her hands dropped. It was an official company document, one she'd signed herself. "Marcus Kane," the woman read aloud, "Senior Equity Partner, West End Investments, Direct Stakeholder in Olith Brands, Inc., parent company of this boutique." Truth dropped like a bomb no one had prepared for. Eyes widened. A gasp actually escaped someone's throat. Marcus remained silent. He didn't look angry. He looked tired. Not the kind of tired you sleep off. The kind that weighs on your chest for years. Jacqueline reached into her purse and gently pulled out a gold-foiled card. She set it on the counter like a final piece in a chess game. "This," she said, "was your last chance to treat people like they matter." The manager was ghost white now, her hands shaking. I didn't know." "Exactly," Marcus finally said. "You didn't know, but you assumed." He didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. Every person in that store was now looking at him. Not like a suspect, not like a stranger, like someone they'd underestimated. Someone who had just peeled their ignorance open like a window. And through that window they all saw who they truly were. Small, shallow, wrong. The silence that followed felt like a courtroom with no jury, just judgment sinking deep into the floor. Marcus didn't move at first. He simply looked around, one by one, locking eyes with the people who had stared at him like a criminal just moments ago. No one could hold his gaze now. He stepped forward not with force but with precision, calm, controlled. "You know what hurts most?" he said softly, voice steady. "It's not being insulted, it's being familiar with it." The manager swallowed hard, trying to form a defense, but Marcus raised a gentle hand. "Don't. This isn't about just you. This is about how often people who look like me walk into places we help build, only to be treated like we don't belong." The security guard shifted awkwardly. The receptionist stared at the floor. "I've walked through fire to sit at the table I own. I've signed checks that fund your salaries, and still I walk in as a stranger and leave as a lesson." Jacqueline blinked back a tear, not because she was sad, because she was proud. "If I had raised my voice," Marcus continued, "you'd have called me angry. If I had walked away, you'd have felt justified. So I stood here, and I let you talk." He paused, letting that settle. The weight of it cracked through every person in that room like thunder beneath the skin. "I've made decisions worth millions with fewer words than what I've spoken today. And yet, the one thing I keep having to explain is my humanity. I don't want an apology. I want awareness." He nodded once, then turned to leave, but not before placing a black envelope on the counter. The manager looked at it, hesitating. What's this?" "Your transfer," Jacqueline answered for him. "To customer support. Out of sight. Maybe next time, you'll look deeper before you act." No one spoke as Marcus walked toward the doors, but as he reached them, he turned back once more. And for the record, giving someone respect isn't a reward, it's a starting point. He left the boutique with the kind of silence that only truth can create, the kind that echoes louder than any noise, the kind that rewrites people forever. The thing about dignity is, it never demands a spotlight. It doesn't raise its voice. It doesn't have to. Real dignity waits, and when the world tries to rip it away, it doesn't break. It stares back. It stands taller. Marcus didn't set out to teach anyone a lesson that day. He just wanted to celebrate love. But what he walked into was a mirror reflecting America's most familiar wound. Not just judgment, prejudgment. That gut-deep assumption that because your skin carries history, it must also carry guilt, or threat, or shame. But what happened? Next, the silence, the shifting eyes, the sinking realization, it wasn't just embarrassment, it was exposure. They didn't just misjudge a man, they misjudged his story. They didn't see the boy who worked 3 jobs to keep his mother's lights on. They didn't see the soldier who gave years of his life to a country that still second-guessed him. They didn't see the black father who taught his son to tie his tie, speak with respect and expect none in return. They only saw the skin, not the man. And in America, that mistake keeps repeating. At restaurants, on sidewalks, in banks, on flights every day, but maybe, just maybe. That's why stories like Marcus's matter, because they remind us. You can't see a man's story in his skin, only in his strength. Respect is a right, never a request. So the next time someone walks in and you start forming opinions, stop, ask yourself, what haven't I seen? Who might this person really be? That's not just empathy, that's growth. And in a world this loud, growth is the only thing that still speaks truth. Have you ever walked into a room and felt like you didn't belong before you even spoke a word? Have you ever been judged, sized up, or pushed aside simply because of how you look, where you're from, or what someone assumed about you? Then you already know the weight of what Marcus faced that day. And you already know the power of standing tall in the face of it. If this story reminded you of something you've lived, seen, or survived, don't stay silent. Your voice matters. Your truth matters. Share your experience in the comments. Let someone else know they're not alone. And if you believe that dignity should never be questioned, that respect isn't something earned, it's something owed, then hit like. Subscribe for more stories that lift voices, challenge injustice, and remind the world what real strength looks like. Because we're not just telling stories here, we're changing the lens through which they're seen. Are you with us? Are you?